Today, I've put together 13 Hitman movies I really think are worth watching. Are they objectively the best? Probably not. Maybe they're just my favorites. So feel free to argue, agree, or add your own picks in the comments. And now, let's start with Killing Them Softly. Here, Brad Pitt plays Jackie Cogan, a hitman hired after someone robs a mob-protected poker game where important criminal people like to spend their money. And Jackie deals with it, pretty much exactly the way the title suggests. His method is quick, sudden, and preferably from a distance. He does not want the victim to suffer, panic, beg for mercy, or understand too much before it happens. Noble? Maybe. But Jackie is also extremely cold-blooded and very practical about money. The film is set during the 2008 financial crisis, and in Jackie's line of work, every job or everybody should be paid properly. It may not reinvent the genre, but its visuals, simple action thrills, and Brad Pitt's charismatic performance still make it worth watching. Luc Besson's La Femme Nikita is a stylish, moody action thriller starring Anne Parillaud as Nikita, a punk drug addict who is saved from execution for one reason: to be turned into a government assassin. Nikita is violent, unstable, and dangerous, but also vulnerable enough to become a genuinely fascinating anti-hero. Parillaud is terrific in the role, playing her as someone forced into a new life, then slowly becoming frighteningly good at it. With Besson's direction at full speed, the film has an urgent, dizzying energy that makes it easy to see why it later inspired a 5-season TV series, a Hong Kong remake, Black Cat, and an American remake, Point of No Return. Don Siegel's 1964 version of The Killers may be older than most films on this list, but don't let that scare you off. It still works, and for several reasons. Lee Marvin plays a cold-blooded hitman trying to find the truth behind a job that does not quite add up. After he and his partner kill a man who does not even try to run away, they start wondering why the victim accepted his death so calmly and who was really behind the contract. Clu Gulager is right beside Marvin as a wonderfully nasty partner in crime. The film has a sharp, energetic score from an early career John Williams, long before Jaws and Star Wars made his music impossible to miss, and visually it still works. And yes, this is also Ronald Reagan's final feature film before he left acting and later became Governor of California. That makes it strange enough already, but the film also gives us John Cassavetes punching him in the face and throwing him out of a moving car, so there you go, a strange little piece of movie history. Since we are already in the 60s, let's stay there for just a little longer. Jean-Pierre Melville's Le Samouraï is one of those films that pretty much defines the cool, silent hitman on screen. Alain Delon plays Jeff Costello, a contract killer who lives almost like a ghost, alone in a bare Paris apartment, always ready to disappear, always careful, always controlled. Everything about him is precise. He steals cars when he needs them, plans his jobs down to the smallest detail, and moves through the city with almost no wasted emotion. The film itself works the same way. But that control starts to fall apart after a nightclub hit, when Jeff is seen leaving the scene. His employers turn against him, and the man who seemed impossible to shake is suddenly being hunted himself. And yes, before we move on, it is worth mentioning how much later films like Scorsese's Taxi Driver, Walter Hill's The Driver, and The American seem to owe to Le Samouraï. Killer Joe is a pitch-black, extremely harsh thriller from William Friedkin, the director of The French Connection and The Exorcist. The film takes place in modern Texas. Matthew McConaughey plays a corrupt Dallas cop who makes extra money as a contract killer. When a broke, desperate young man and his father hire him to kill Chris's mother for the insurance payout, Joe naturally demands payment up front. But since the money will only appear after the murder, he agrees to take the client's pretty younger sister as collateral. McConaughey's Joe is, on one hand, a vile, amoral piece of work. On the other, he is brutal, attractive, and charismatic enough to create something like Stockholm Syndrome in his captive. And then, from a third angle, he is a monster who is not completely incapable of tenderness. In other words, Friedkin made a bloodthirsty, almost soulless version of beauty trapped with the beast, softened only by a dose of irony aimed straight at American family values. In Michael Mann's Collateral, Tom Cruise plays Vincent, a cold and calculating contract killer, which is not something you get to see from him very often. Vincent is a charismatic talker who convinces a taxi driver named Max, played by Jamie Foxx, to ferry him around Los Angeles for $600. There are several stops to make, and Max soon discovers that Vincent has 5 people to kill before the night is over. The tension builds with every murder as Max realizes he has to stop Vincent by any means necessary. Cruise's look is one of the most memorable parts of the film, with silver hair and a suit that gives him a sleek, off-putting appearance. He functions like a shark, drifting through the night until he attacks in a quick, expert manner, best seen in a scene where he stalks through a crowded nightclub to take out his targets. Fox is equally good, and the role earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor in the same year he won Best Actor for Ray. Martin McDonagh's In Bruges is a black comedy built on material that should probably not be funny. The story begins with a botched hit where Ray, played by Colin Farrell, accidentally kills a child. After that, he and his partner Ken, played by Brendan Gleeson, are sent to Bruges, where the film turns into a strange, violent crime story about 2 hitmen who are both dangerous and completely ridiculous. It is a rare gangster film that manages to be as hilarious as it is thoughtful. Farrell won a Golden Globe for his performance, and the film was nominated for an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. It also reportedly helped tourism in Bruges, which is pretty funny considering what actually happens in the film. John Woo's The Killer is one of the films that helped define Hong Kong action cinema as its own dangerous, instantly recognizable brand. Woo and Chow Yun-fat had worked together before, but this is the movie that turned so many of their images into action film language. Chow sliding with a gun in each hand, Woo's slow-motion gunfights, and those fluttering doves. And even if later films borrowed those images again and again, they still hit hard here. The Killer is full-speed action, but it is also pure melodrama. Chow Yun-fat plays a sentimental hitman who is still taking assassination jobs so he can pay for an operation for Jenny, a nightclub singer who was blinded during a firefight he caused. The action scenes were improvised on set with the actors, stuntmen, and stunt coordinator, which helps explain their chaotic energy. It will not be for everyone, but if this kind of operatic, blood-soaked action is your thing, it may be exactly right. The Day of the Jackal is based on Frederick Forsyth's best-selling novel, and the setup is very clean. A professional assassin, known only as the Jackal, is hired to kill French President Charles de Gaulle in 1963. Edward Fox plays the Jackal as a man who treats murder like a job that has to be done properly. On the other side, the police slowly start to understand what is happening, and Deputy Commissioner Claude Lebel, played by Michael Lonsdale, has to find him before the plan reaches de Gaulle. Like many thrillers from the 70s, The Day of the Jackal carries a clear sense of political paranoia. But director Fred Zinnemann is just as interested in something more practical, the process of an assassination, the small details, the preparation, and all the ordinary steps that have to happen before one man can try to kill another. The Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men became one of their most celebrated films, winning 4 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Supporting Actor for Javier Bardem's chilling performance. All the praise feels completely deserved, and calling it one of the best movies of the 21st century does not feel like an exaggeration. Based on Cormac McCarthy's novel, this gripping neo-western follows a hunter named Llewellyn Moss, played by Josh Brolin. Moss finds a briefcase full of money in the desert and goes on the run, only to be hunted by the hitman Anton Chigurh. The movie is dark and violent, yet it also manages to be darkly funny and moving. While Bardem and Brolin are excellent, Tommy Lee Jones often steals the show as Sheriff Ed Tom Bell, particularly in the movie's final moments. His closing speech is so haunting and powerful that it leaves you questioning everything you've just seen. Of course, the whole John Wick franchise belongs on a Hitman list, but I still want to focus on the first film. For me, it is still the best one. It also gave Reeves his defining post-Matrix action role and helped revive his career. It built a stylish assassin world with its own rules, codes, and mythology, all of which the sequels would later expand. But the main reason it exploded was the action, clean, sharp gun-fu that mixed gunplay and martial arts in a way that felt fresh. Add John's brutally simple backstory and it became very easy to root for him. And now we've reached another Luc Besson film on this list. The Professional may be the best film of his directing career, the best film of Jean Reno's acting career, and probably one of the defining Hitman protagonist movies. It also launched Natalie Portman, who plays young Matilda, a girl who wants revenge on the corrupt DEA agents who killed her little brother. And of course, it is hard to separate the film from Sting's Shape of My Heart. Apart from killing people for a living, Léon is basically a good man. He exercises, becomes a kind of family for Matilda, and takes care of his beloved potted plant. Under the brutal exterior, he is honest, gentle, and strangely noble. Today, nobody really thinks of The Professional as an offshoot of another movie. But if you've seen La Femme Nikita, or decide to watch it after this video, you can clearly see where Léon came from. Jean Reno had a small role there as Victor, the cleaner, with the long coat, round sunglasses, and knitted hat. That whole look later moved over to Léon. The same year, we get another film about hitmen, the mob, and various criminal business. But this time in the completely opposite style. Tarantino's style, of course. No heavy tragedy here, just black humor, feverish action, a little eccentric cool guy dancing, and rapid-fire talk about the most pointless little things. Pulp Fiction has several wild, intersecting stories and several unforgettable characters, including Uma Thurman as the mob boss's wife, Bruce Willis as a boxer, and Tim Roth as a small-time robber. But the two characters audiences probably remembered and loved most were the hitmen played by Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta. And, as usual with Tarantino, they are not good people. They are not especially gentle, noble, or morally elevated. But they are also not without their own strange warmth. Vincent and Jules work so well because they are so grounded and ridiculous, arguing about McDonald's burgers, getting caught in bathroom timing, and quoting the Bible before a hit. While Vincent also gives us that famous twist to "You Never Can Tell,"